Those of you who are out there, you know it was a great beginning, a great send-off to this war. Probably over 4,000 miles by the direction that they'll be going. First to cover the entire, almost half of the length of California, and then, of course, then going east. I don't know how many thousands of days ago. It's now in the thousands, maybe 10, 15,000 days that Peltier has been taken. He's there because of the strong belief that he had committed a crime against one of their comrades, the FBI. The FBI surrounded us at Wounded Knee in 73. There were 300 FBI agents surrounded Wounded Knee. And they shot at us for 71 days. That's why we sing that song. Just got back from Wounded Knee. FBI, they shot at me. They wanted to stop the American Indian movement from growing stronger because we were confronting this government of all the wrong that it committed against Native people. And they had to silence that voice. They tried to silence many times throughout the last 500 years, whenever the leaders of the the Native people rise up, they jail that person for many years. They put him in prison, or they gun them down. Crazy Horse stood against this government, and they confined him, and they stabbed him with a bayonet in the back. A fellow army personnel stabbed him, but he was a native person, but he was wearing the colors of this country. Chief Joseph fought this army, 7 different commands, 12 different commands, and he defeated each command, and they couldn't capture him. And finally, tired and exhausted, he said, I will fight no more forever. But yet, they put him in prison, kept him away from his home, never allowed him to go back to his home territory, like they did Geronimo. Geronimo also talked against the evils of this government, of taking the children away from the parents. Geronimo spoke against that. And they captured him, put him in prison, not in Arizona, but they took him to Florida, far away from his home. And after many years in prison, they put him in another territory, Oklahoma, where he passed on to the spirit world. So time after time, the history books are filled with the stories of how this government tracks down the Indian leaders, and they take care of them. They either snuff them out, capture them, silence them in some way. It had to silence the American Indian movement. It had to. And then at Wounded Knee, they saw the most opportune time to silence the movement forever. And they didn't send 10 agents. They didn't send 50 agents. They didn't send 100 agents. They didn't send 200 agents. They sent 300 agents to Wounded Knee. And their mission was to destroy the American Indian movement. President Nixon, from what we heard later through one of the chief of staff, Ehrlichman, that Nixon was mad because the entire FBI agents, all of them, their main mission was to destroy the American Indian movement. And they proposed an end to the occupation of Wounded Knee by laying down a bed of the smoke, tear gas. Laying down a bed of grass and then coming in and shooting. But we kept strong. Our forces, our young people, held the line. They held the line. Young kids. One was 13 years old. The other warriors, 30, 35, 40, held the line. And the FBI couldn't penetrate. And we took them on the battlefield at Wounded Knee, and we defeated them. They backed away. And then they brought in 30 armored personnel carriers. 30. And that morning when Stan Holder woke me up, he said, "Dennis, there's a noise, I don't understand it." And we were looking around, and it was foggy that morning, but I could hear that droning sound. We were looking in our binoculars, and then he said, "Oh my God, now I know where I heard that sound before, Vietnam." There, as the fog began to lift, we could see the armored personnel carriers all around Wounded Knee. We were surrounded. Then I knew that this government was going to silence us, one way or another. But yet the warriors held strong again. They held the line, and we defeated them again. And in there, the head of the FBI said, the American Indian movement almost bankrupted the FBI, almost bankrupted that agency. And they were afraid. They couldn't handle us like the way they did the Black Panthers. They killed the Black Panthers in Chicago. They killed them right here in Oakland. But the FBI didn't do it. They had the local police doing it. But we saw that. And when they start shooting at our warriors of Wounded Knee, we gave the orders, return the fire. Return it. Don't let it go unanswered. And our young warriors with 22s and shotguns, broken down rifles, held the lines against all this heavy army, heavy artillery. They couldn't beat us. And then they tried to line all kinds of felony charges against us and had me stand before a jury and saying that this man is a criminal. And they read off all these charges against me to face 350 years in prison plus a life sentence. They're trying to silence. And they had 5 of their staff attorneys from D.C. to come and handle our trial against me and Russell Means. But we searched for our attorneys. We searched this country. We found 6 top criminal attorneys, and we brought them in. And in my opening statement, I told the jury that we shouldn't be on trial. It is those people over there, and I was pointing at the prosecuting attorney, the U.S. attorney's desk. I said they should be on trial. They have not enforced the laws that spell our rights out in the various treaties. And then for 9 months the trial went on. But exposure after exposure came of the wrongdoing that the FBI was doing and the U.S. attorneys. Fabricated evidence. And the judge, who I thought at the beginning of the trial was the most racist, turned out that he was against this government that was deceiving him. And in the end, he said, not only will I attack any military organization that tries to enforce the laws of the civilian laws of this country, I will never allow the military to enforce our laws. And he dropped four of the cases stemming from the military charges. And then in the end, he was so angry at the prosecuting attorney, he dismissed the remaining charges against us. And he said, 9 months ago, Dennis Banks said our government should be on trial. And now I believe that he was right. He said, he said, I don't care if I have any friends left in the U.S. Attorney's Office or in the FBI or the U.S. Marshal. But what I'm going to say now is what I believe to be true. And he pointed to the flag behind him, the U.S. flag. He said, I was a commander during World War II, and I was honored to carry this flag. But today I am ashamed of the colors because of what my government is doing in my courtroom. You deceived me. He was looking at the U.S. Attorney. You fabricated evidence against these men. And you have polluted the waters of justice. You have polluted the waters of justice. That was his word. And he dismissed the remaining charges against us.